Welcome to the LDN radio show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsiegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low dose naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us. This show is sponsored by Dixon's Chemist, who are the experts in LDN and associated treatments in the UK. Dixon's Chemist are the most cost-effective for LDN in all forms within the UK and Europe, maintaining safety standards far in excess of what is required. Why would you choose to get your LDN from anywhere else? Call 0141 404 6545 today to speak to their LDN experts. Today I'd like to introduce my guest, Dr. Harpal Bains from the Harpal Clinic in London. Thank you for joining us today, Harpal.
Hello, Linda. Really happy to join you too.
Could you tell us, what have you been doing in your practice since we last spoke?
When I last spoke to you, we were about to open our new premises, and that's now was up and running up to the pandemic. Of course, we've been doing a lot of cryo sessions, and it's been a learning curve for us as well, because it's one of those things where you read about it, you hear people say stuff about it, but to actually test it out ourselves, I've personally tested it out. I've had my patients give me first-hand information about what's happening, how it's impacted their mood, their sleep, their workout, what happens when they do it pre-workout, what happens when they do it post-workout. Has been absolutely fascinating. It's a learning curve. I cannot wait to learn even more. The other thing we've also been doing on quite a regular basis there, of course, intravenous nutrient therapy, which we are now doing quite a bit more than what we used to do compared to when we first started. And the infrared sauna, the main reason for which I got that in is for heavy metal detoxing, which I think is really, really important and crucial to a lot of people. So that part of it is going, and that's with, of course, up to the pandemic. And since then, as of December of last year, I've been experimenting with this thing called microimmunotherapy, which because it's to do with immunity, my interest in it developed mainly because of LDN and having had by now hundreds and hundreds of my patients on LDN and just seeing what it can do for people and for their immunity. This just seemed to be a natural step because once again, it's to do with the basis of you're helping your body to help itself, which I really love. I mean, that's the best way to do medicine, really help your body do what it knows to do. Mm-hmm. Another thing as well that we've been having quite a lot of very interesting results with is using LDN in MS, in patients with MS, but alongside testosterone. Particularly in female patients, the results have been really astounding. I think one of my, two of my patients actually, that really, really sticks out. One of them has had to use walking stick. She is in her early 30s, very young, developed MS quite early. She has quite a few kids. I think about 3 kids, and she's tried. She's one of those really proactive, tries every single thing. And then we started on hormone therapy, so things like pregnenolone, DHEA, and testosterone being the main thing. Now, for her, I actually went up a little higher than most of my female patients. And she has functioned really well with that, because right now it means that if she were to use her muscles to do something because she has more testosterone, her ability to build muscles has gone up quite a fair bit, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. So the combination of the LDN with the testosterone has actually enabled her to get to a state where she now only needs a stick occasionally. She doesn't need it all the time. She's able to manage her children much better. I would say, and that really triggered my interest. And all this came about because she did the research, and she came to me and asked me for a higher dose, and I thought it was worth a try. Another patient has MS where she needs to be fed, and even then she chokes quite a fair bit. With being on LDN alone, the choking stopped quite a lot, from choking every few bites to maybe once a meal, which is, I think, fantastic. And once again, her family members usually exercise her limbs for her. And with the addition of testosterone, that's improved quite a fair bit as well. So it's something I'm extremely interested in. I really wish more of my patients would come on board, and that I would love to have a bigger group of people where we could see how it works, because it's a case of you don't have enough energy in your muscles to do what it needs to do, and this is really giving that to you. And then, of course, you have the added benefits of having increased drive, increased motivation, which are all signs of testosterone deficiency as well. So when you top it up, that's what you get, decrease of anxiety.
Wow.
So it's wonderful. It's been really interesting.
So if a patient comes to you and you think that they have low levels of testosterone, how do you go about testing? Is it a blood test?
Yeah, it is a blood test for majority of patients. At the moment, we are talking to a company. So far, we have had, people have had to come into London to get their blood test done. But very soon, and I'm thinking within a couple of weeks, really, we have been talking to a provider where it will be sent to their homes. So the panel that I've asked for is different to what's currently available online for the at-home test. But we want to be able to make this accessible to, frankly, nationally.
Mm-hmm. So the blood test that you'll send out to patients to do at home, is that going to be like pricking your finger like you do with the diabetic testing at home? Or do you have to go to...
It's a bit more than that.
Okay.
It's a little bit more than that. So you've got two options. So these are basically like mini vials. The type of vials that... well, what's the best way to explain it? So unlike a regular finger prick where you are testing your capillary blood and it doesn't give you absolutely accurate readings, this one you have to squeeze out quite a lot more blood, and some people do find that to be a struggle. But it means that, you know what, if there's 100% of people, if there are 100 people that you send this test to, even if 60 people are able to get that right amount of blood, it would mean that they can do it at home, which in this current crisis of COVID being everywhere, it means they don't have to go out and expose themselves to potential immune issues. It means that they can also save money on having to go to a place that does phlebotomy. So it's ticking a lot of the right boxes, and we're very excited about being able to roll this out. So it's more than normal blood, and it's a little bit more effortful, but to me it's worth it. And the remaining 30 or 40% who can't do it, well, then you always have the option of getting a nurse to fill in those small vials, but it's still much smaller than the average what you normally have to do.
And what kind of cost are we looking at? I mean, is it an expensive test?
So testosterone, in fact, I'm just about to almost completed writing a blog about different methods of testing testosterone because there's so much out there. So what you would get at your GPs is normally total testosterone, and that's actually quite misleading because that just refers to all the testosterone that's available in your body. So you could have a really high number and, and you have all the symptoms, and you, as far as you're concerned, you don't know what else is going on. You suffer, so it must be something else. The problem is total testosterone doesn't reflect what's actually going on in your body. Most of the testosterone that's in your bloodstream is actually bound to a protein which is called the sex hormone binding globulin, that's SHBG. If it's bound, it's basically not very useful to you at all, which means the only one that's actually useful is what's called free or bioavailable testosterone. So, and that's something completely different. So if you do not measure that, you actually do not know. So I have seen so many patients with very, very high level of testosterone, and on paper they seem fine. They're like, my GPs won't treat me, but I have all the symptoms of it. We then do a much more detailed testing, and fair enough, SHBG is very high, and their free testosterone is really, really low. and that's why they're suffering. The moment we replace them with it, they end up doing really well. And so, and then free testosterone, there are a few other indexes as well that you have to look for. It's fairly detailed. We have a lot of the online places actually do calculated measurement, which means they take total testosterone, they take another number, they do their math, and they come up with that. Even that one is very liable to a lot of errors. Whereas if you have a measured, which means they actually take your blood, they put it in a machine, and they actually measure it, that's the best way to get the most effective results. Of course, that costs a little bit more. I believe it's worth it because, you know what, you're looking at doing it a few times a year.
Mm-hmm. And the treatment, you know, when you found out somebody is low, I mean, is it an intravenous thing, a capsule, tablet? How do you take it?
So with women, it's almost always a cream or a gel. We prefer to use compounding pharmacy, so we actually get it created in this thing called a liposomal gel. Because liposomal basically means that it goes into the fatty tissues, and therefore it gets absorbed slowly over a period of time, which makes it a very nice daily application, and it's released slowly with time. So we get it made bespoke, and which means the nice thing about that is that we can get exactly what we need. So in some people, we might decide 1% is the way to go. Another person, I might decide 4 or 5%. And with men, of course, it's much higher. It just means that every time we do it, we're able to tweak it. And I might tell you start with 1 pump. And if you don't feel much of a difference, let's do 2 pumps. Now it's 2%. And because it's quite a fairly bespoke regime, we are constantly in communication with patients. We tell them to talk to us. We tell them to give us feedback so that we can advise them as to what to do. Mm-hmm. That's the best. For men, some of the men, we also do injectables. We will soon be introducing implants as well, testosterone implants. These are, of course, for men, which once again can be quite bespoke. They are like little grains of rice, very similar to what women use for contraception. So these are placed under your skin. They last for about 4 months, and so it makes it quite easy for people who have to travel a lot, or where daily application really is not an option for them. So I think compliance is really interesting here, where we really have to think about how the person lives their life. And the way I see it, I can give them the best method. If they're not going to use it, they're not going to use it. So compliance to me is really important. I will bend over backwards trying to find a method that will work for you and your lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And being somebody who has MS myself, to have your limbs become stronger and your body stronger is amazing, isn't it? I mean, because there are so many people who find, standing, using their arms, very, very difficult. And some people find it difficult to sit up. That sounds nothing short of a miracle, doesn't it? Sounds amazing.
It's about taking a step back and just asking yourself, so what is actually happening in the body? And muscular weakness is one of the biggest things. How do we strengthen the muscle? Testosterone is one of the biggest things. And as I said, I'm actually starting a lot of my female patients on fairly high doses, and they love it. I mean, the changes to their life. I mean, for this one female, she was the one who started me on this whole trip, actually, because she did the research. She came back to me and she said, "Can I have this, please?" Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, alongside her, it's always it's about practitioners being open-minded enough as well to listen to a patient. And most patients are interested in what's happening to their body. They're going to do way more research than I can as a practitioner. So I need to be open-minded enough and listen to them and learn from them. And I'm so glad I have enough patients like that.
Mm-hmm. Just while we're on the subject here, is it something that you have to take for the rest of your life, or can you take it for a period of time and then your body regulates itself, or are you going to always be deficient?
Most likely you'll always be deficient.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I wish I could say something else. So in someone who's young, like I have patients who are non-MS, but they just have testosterone issues, and they're quite young. Usually, it's a result of something else. Maybe their adrenals are not functioning well, their thyroid's not functioning well, and once I get those things up to speed, the testosterone comes back. However, the moment you're older, it's never going to come back in the levels that it used to be. It's just not possible. The beneficial effects of it is so huge. It's well worth it. I keep telling people it's worth it because you have cardioprotective benefits, you have bone protective benefits because part of the testosterone converts to estrogen, which keeps your bone nice, big, and thick, which is exactly what you want. You don't want fractures. It's the benefits for the brain, no brain fog, none of those. So many advantages that it makes so much sense to just stay on it. Increases your red blood cells. This is one of the functions of testosterone as well. Increases the number of the red blood cells. It's actually an indirect way of increasing it in people who are prone to anemia or who find that they have a lot of very heavy bleeding, for women with periods. And there's so many different ways to use it, but once again, it's about taking a step back and actually looking and seeing how can we make this work.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking about immunotherapy. Would you like to explain what you're doing with that?
That's it's something that started in Germany. I think it's been there for about 30 odd years. They finally managed to get them to come to the UK to train some of us within the British Society of Environmental Medicine. And so we have some fantastic German lecturers who are actually teaching us about this. And at the moment, there are not many of us who are being trained up on it. The reason I developed an interest, as I said, is because I saw what LDN could do. And for me, it's like, this is a no-brainer. So there's different formulas for a lot of different things. It brings down inflammation. It's very specific in how it acts. So what's contained within each one of these, they're little capsules that you take sublingually. It tastes like sugar. You put it under your tongue. Very tasty. It's one of the few things that's actually very tasty. And it's very specific in how you take it. Day 1, you take something. Day 2, you take something else. Day 3, you take something. And there are numbers, and you have to go according to the numbers. So the way it works is that each one of these capsules contains different things depending on what your issue is. There's different formula. They call them formulas, different formulas for different problems, like Epstein-Barr virus, that's a whole different formula. People with very high inflammation, that's a different one. For sleep issues, that's a different one. For cancers, that's one. For papillomavirus, it's wonderful. Upper respiratory tract infection and viruses, that's a whole different one for that as well. And each one of them contains things that are called interferons, cytokines, interleukins, natural killer cells. These are all the soldiers that's already there in your body, but for various reasons you don't have enough of them or you don't have the right kind. And so the research that's gone into it has gone into actually making these right formulas. And so if you think about the fact that you're taking a different tablet every day, it's as if day 1, it resembles how your body reacts to a foreign attack. Day 1, it goes, it has a little look to see who's there. Day 2, it sends a certain number of soldiers. Day 3, it might send slightly different soldiers, and it's fascinating. I'm loving it. So I'm still developing my experience in it. I've only started using it since December of last year. I've personally used one for sleep regulation. Mm-hmm. And because I wear the Oura ring and I've been able to track my sleep, I've loved it. One night I even had 3 hours of deep sleep, and that's for me to have 2 hours odd of deep sleep is actually fairly common now. And the best part about this, I would say more than anything else, is that you don't have to do it forever. It's usually 2 to 3 months of doing it daily, and after that you can go on a maintenance regime. For some people, other people don't really need to. I think there's only 1 or 2 where it's a lifelong thing. The cancer one, I think, is a lifelong thing, and there's one for Epstein-Barr virus is a minimum of 6 months. But because it's shorter term, it makes it, if you think about your annual health cost, it becomes a bit more affordable.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really exciting, doesn't it?
It is. I just want everyone to go research about it. In the same way, I wanted to tell everyone about LDN. When I first started doing it, I feel the same about this, and so I'm very excited about it.
Mm-hmm. So for people who are living around the UK who don't want to come down to London, what kind of service are you offering those patients now?
everything at the moment, besides the intravenous drips and the things where they physically have to come in. For everything else, we do everything's online now. Most of our patients are online. We were already doing online consultations way before COVID anyway, so we're very used to it, but it's streamlined even further. Now that we have our lab sorted out, even that's not an issue. So the exciting thing is, and we are looking towards a membership model, mainly because it makes things more accessible, and so that's something we're working on, just so that you can pay a little bit every month, and it helps us as well as a business to survive, which is really important in this climate, and it helps them as well because it's a case of where both parties will be helping each other out, and we all want the same thing at the end.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we've come to the end, but before we go, would you like to tell people how they can contact you?
At the moment, unfortunately, we are not taking calls, so it's only email, and it's help@harpalclinic.co.uk. We will call you, but we are not accepting calls just because it's a bit complex at the moment, and starts on, everyone's working remotely. But it's everything's online. It's nice and easy.
What's your website address?
It's www.harpalclinic.co.uk. And I believe you'll be giving the link. So.
I will, yes. Okay, that's fantastic. And I can't wait to interview you again to find out, the results of what you're now putting into place.
Very excited. Concentrate of excitement. Cannot wait to share.
Thank you. This show is sponsored by Dixon's Chemist, who are the experts in LDN and associated treatments in the UK. Dixon's Chemist are the most cost-effective for LDN in all forms within the UK and Europe, maintaining safety standards far in excess of what is required. Why would you choose to get your LDN from anywhere else? Call 0141 404 6545 today to speak to their LDN experts. Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, @ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.